Hi, my name is Courtney Ball. I am a leadership coach and I help new managers, usually female managers, build their confidence and leverage their personal and professional strengths in the corporate workspace. Okay, so share this out if that's helpful. I have 3 points that I want to cover today, and I hope you find this interesting. I think being confident can be tough in any aspect of your life, but in corporate settings more specifically, when you're a woman of color, when you're in an underrepresented group, it can feel exponentially more difficult. And for me, I am first generation working in corporate. So I know how it feels to feel like I'm missing something. I'm not like everyone else. If I look like this or if I sounded like this, then maybe I'd get further. I totally hear where you're coming from on all of that, and I can empathize with you. But before I get too derailed, let me focus on my bullets here. And I want to focus specifically, like I said, on 3 ways insecurity or lack of confidence shows up at work. So number 1 is ignoring your gut. And what I wrote down here was you have discernment in every other aspect of your life. You know who you want to date, how you want to date them, how often you want to date them. You know what you want to eat, how often you want to exercise, and you feel confident in making those decisions. But for some reason, and I think they are legitimate reasons, when it comes to work, you feel like you can't trust that gut reaction. When your boss asks you, hey, go try out this new project, and you know immediately how you're going to handle it, but your boss may say, oh no, I want you to handle it the way that we always handle these things, with this cookie cutter solution that may not work. In your gut, you know from your own experience, and it may be experience from outside of work, that this is not going to work, but for some reason, you ignore that. And you say, okay, supervisor, I'm going to listen to you. Let's try this out. Another way that this ignoring your own intuition, your own wisdom can show up, you excel with your common sense, your intellect, your good values when making decisions in other parts of your life. But for some reason, you don't step up to assert your decision, your way of thinking when it comes to work. You oftentimes let your boss dictate how things are going to go instead of providing your own original thinking, your unique thought. And I'm not saying this to make you feel bad, but I really want you to sit and reflect on how you are showing up at work and how perhaps a lack of confidence is also leading you through corporate work. An example of how you don't trust your gut, and I saw this with a good friend of mine. Let's say, for instance, you work in sales, or you work in some kind of account management role, or even like a customer support specialist if you're in the tech industry. Let's say you're doing that role and you've been working with a client of yours for a year. So you know this client, you know what this client likes, you know what this client doesn't like, you know when a client is going to want this very specific report, you know how they like the report, you know their personal phone number, like you know this client. And it's time to renew the account. And your boss says, oh, we have this new requirement in our CRM. Let's say you use Salesforce. In Salesforce, and I want you to enter all their information in this way and just ignore all of the preferences you've already entered in your CRM and go execute. If you are dealing with insecurity or a lack of confidence, you may say, I know this client better than anyone, but let me listen to what my boss says instead of challenging him or her with my intellect and my insights. And you may go and do it. That is a sign of lack of confidence coming up in your day-to-day work. And if you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, you saw that last night I released an audiobook. It's totally free, and it's called A New Manager's Guide to Building Confidence at Work. And I talk about this exact same thing. I talk about how for a long time in my corporate career, I was letting fear push me. I was letting fear guide my steps instead of relying on the strengths, the experience, the wisdom that I know that I have, that I know is needed on a leadership level within my organization. I talk about all of that. I go pretty raw in the audiobook. And the link is in my bio to the book. But I literally discuss how everything, all the lack of confidence really got amplified when I got terminated from a job. Yeah, I go like really authentic, really raw in the audiobook. But I go that deep because I want you to know that you're not alone in this struggle. It's hard, especially when you're the only one. It's really, really hard. So another way that insecurity or lack of confidence shows up at work is you minimize yourself. But women will shrink ourselves. We'll shrink ourselves so that we're not taking up as much space. Whereas a man, they come in, they want to stretch all out, they'll stay stretched out, take up all the space on the subway. That is how it can be. But when you are struggling from a lack of confidence, you may minimize yourself and even the impact that you're having on your workplace. And yes, we're not face to face right now, but even think about how you're showing up on Zoom. How do you come on? Do you say, oh, I'm going to turn my camera off? I don't have much to say. No one's going to listen to me anyways. I'm not leading the meeting. I don't have anything to contribute. So you may turn your camera off. Or you have your camera on, but you're disengaged. You're not speaking up. That's what I mean by minimizing yourself. I'm certain you have something valuable to say. Another way that you may be minimizing yourself and your impact, and I know I'm still guilty of this. Sometimes when I'm feeling anxious around something at work, like something is making me nervous, I will, instead of standing out and kind of offering ideas, I kind of just try to blend in. I try to blend in and get by because I don't want to ruffle feathers too much. I work in HR, so for me, if I ruffle feathers, I really may be hurting someone's feelings, right? But outside of human resources, in your role, speak up, do the research to find the right answers, or ask somebody else. And then you don't have to worry about blending in. You don't have to worry about shrinking yourself. And then I kind of brought this up at the beginning, but I'm literally the first person in my family that works in a corporate setting. When I think about that, I think I literally, besides my mentors and my friends, I haven't really had someone that I can look up to and say, oh, well, you did it like this, so I'm going to do it like that. It used to, I've moved beyond that now, but that used to really cripple me. It would make me think, oh, well, since my family isn't like this, maybe my ideas around this won't really connect with other people. Or even when I'm not talking about my day-to-day work. If I'm in a conversation with other colleagues and everyone is talking about their summer plans or their holiday plans, and I think about the fact that I never go home. I rarely go home to California during the holidays because the holidays just aren't my thing. I don't want to go too far down that path, but when you have a personal background that's totally opposite of everyone that you work with, that can make you shy away from or have less confidence around sharing your story. And you shouldn't. You really shouldn't. The last sign or the last way that confidence can show up in the workplace that I want to mention here is, it kind of goes along with that, but feeling like you need to assimilate to everyone else's culture around you. I tell this story pretty often, but when I first moved into corporate America here in New York City, I started a new job in human resources, and I would straighten my hair every single day. I have a lot of hair, if you can't tell. It's very thick. It's pretty long now, too. And I would literally get up extra early, I wouldn't blow dry my hair every day, but I would straighten my hair every single day. And it's because I wanted to blend in. In college, I wore my hair however I wanted to. In grad school, however I wanted to. But because I was afraid of not fitting in and that leading to me being terminated, I felt the need to straighten my hair and try to look like other people. Hello, I cannot change my skin color. If you are working somewhere and it's a predominantly white institution, there's not much you can do to your appearance or to your culture or to your background to make you feel like you fit in more. But when you're suffering from this lack of confidence or you're feeling these feelings of insecurity, you may try to. Like I would find myself in conversations with people, those personal conversations, and I just was not connecting to people. And I still have days like that. Like when my colleagues will talk about something related to their family, just because I have a wonky, weird, somewhat traumatizing family background, I don't necessarily relate to that. And in my audiobook, I talk about that. I talk about how I am, as a Black woman, at the time under 30, I was very different than the people working with me. And that made me start to doubt my own capability. Instead of doubting myself, what I needed to do was lean in to my own unique strengths and use those strengths to make me a better professional. Once I learned how to do that, how to change those feelings of insecurity around my own background and instead look at those feelings regarding my background as a point of strength, as a point of resilience and perseverance, that helped me move a lot more confidently through corporate. And I talk about all of that in the audiobook. It's 3 parts. The first part, I'm talking about how when I realized I was literally paralyzed by insecurity. Not literally paralyzed, just said figuratively paralyzed, but at work, I wasn't able to progress because I was letting these feelings of doubt and insecurity stop me from doing that. And then in the second part, I talked about how I got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. I said, enough is enough. I'm not living like this. I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm going to move on. And then in the third part of the audiobook, like I said, 3 parts. The final part, I talk about how I went about building more confidence. And yes, at first, it was a little bit of fake it till you make it. And not fake it in the sense that I was being disingenuous or like lying about myself. But once I became a director and I had no choice but to show up more assertively as a leader, I started to, instead of focusing on, oh, all these things are wrong, I started to imagine this is the kind of director that I want to be. And I started moving like that. This is the kind of role model I want to be to other Black women, other women of color trying to figure out corporate America. This is how I'm going to move forward as an HR director. So in the audiobook, I cover all of that. The audiobook is linked in my Instagram bio. You can also go to bit.ly/confidence audiobook, and that's all lowercase, and you can access it right there. But I made it free because I think this is something that's not often discussed. When we talk about women in corporate, we talk about, yeah, women are so powerful and we can be just as influential as men in corporate, and we've overcome so much, but we don't talk about how those feelings of insecurity don't necessarily go away overnight. I will be 32 in June, and some of those issues I still battle with. But I've learned how to appreciate my positive characteristics and more than kind of downplaying them, for sure. But I've also learned how to not be ashamed of where I come from. That struggle, those tribulations, those built a solid foundation to be able to deal with the crazy ASS people that I encounter on a daily basis working in corporate. So I take pride in that.